The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
It's time to go on the mat, a presentation of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum. It's brought to you by Rolling Ford in Shell Rock.
Welcome to On the Mat. I am Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, joined by Holland, Iowa's finest, Doug Van Gelder. Welcome, big boy. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Yeah.
I've missed the chance to interact with you on the weekly basis that we do, and I'm glad to be back and got a good report from Scott today, so I'm really happy to be back here.
I'm happy to have you back, and the reason for the Holland, Iowa, of course, Holland is close to Grundy Center, but...
Well, that school district is the same. Holland has for 60 years or better.
Well, but the reason is my dad refreshed me that your son, Bo, your youngest son, Bo, had his wedding reception there, I believe. You probably don't even remember at this point.
I think it was Seth's.
Okay, was it Seth's? Okay, so Seth's wedding reception. I don't remember. You're actually
It was not
clarifying.
the reception. We had the rehearsal dinner.
The rehearsal dinner was there.
Yeah.
And my dad said that you walked in and everyone knew you. It was like a homecoming for Doug. And so I wish I could have seen
was.
that.
You know, it is. I'll have to admit, it's always good to see old friends, you know.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah.
That was neat. But we've had a 2-week gap, so this is our chance to discuss the 2016 Olympics in Rio, especially the wrestling competition. For me, anyway, wrestling never goes out of style, especially talking about the Olympics. So we could talk about the Olympics of any year at any time, and I think it's going to be relevant. But we've had 2 weeks to think about things. We've had a couple weeks to look at wrestling in the context of the larger Olympic Games. I enjoy the Olympics across the board. I love watching the swimming and some of the other sports. I think beach volleyball is one of those that Mike Finn, who is the editor of Wrestling Insider News Magazine, said it was the most fun he's ever been at a sporting contest. He said the beach volleyball venue was just fantastic.
They're nuts for down in Brazil. They're nuts for that volleyball, that beach volleyball. They're crazy for volleyball. That's their whole thing down there.
They sure are. Did you watch some of the other venues and competitions?
You bet.
What struck you other than wrestling? What did you like?
You know, the water polo. I just got a kick out of watching that. It's all it is water handball. You know, I don't know why they don't call it that, because there's no horses out there.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like they're running around on horses in the swimming pool. It's just should have been. Well, that's just something I found funny about the way they call things.
Yeah, and team handball.
But I watched just about everything.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoyed it all. The ping pong, man, that's wild. You see those guys?
They're incredible.
How they can volley?
Yeah.
It's like one time it'd be done. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of excitement to see other than the wrestling. So.
Yep. Well, let's talk about the topics that came out of this and the things that you probably hear, that I hear, that were the point of contention, the positives, the highs, the lows. I think one of the things that you are always going to hear, and I think we've heard this from the time we've started watching the Olympics, is why doesn't wrestling get more front and center coverage from NBC? And we can address that topic now on what the reasons are. NBCSN, which would be NBC Sports Network, showed some of the wrestling, so that's where I caught some of it. Now, most of my watching of the competition was online, so I didn't miss a match. So if you are a wrestling fan, there was no reason that you couldn't catch all of the competition. I watched top to bottom online, saw every match that I wanted to, and I have to give NBC a lot of credit because that is a special service that you can have to watch every single wrestling competition available. And that's the beauty of the internet, is you have that access. I know your house doesn't have that capability because you're out in the sticks a little bit, but...
Yeah, I should have signed up at the Cedar Falls utility instead of the satellite provider that I got. So I'm moving out of there soon anyway. So
our experience is different.
Yeah.
So I was able to watch everything online. I watched some on NBCSN, happened to catch the Kyle Snyder match, happened to catch a couple Greco-Roman matches, which didn't have a United States competitor. But yours was different. So from your vantage point, just watching it strictly on TV, what did you catch? What were you able to see?
I'll tell you, the thing that disappointed me the most and grabbed my attention is I have thoroughly enjoyed Greco-Roman and the rules changes that they have made, over the last several years. And the matches that they presented were just absolutely boring.
The Greco matches.
Right. Absolutely boring. Nothing happened in them. So that disturbed me because I know that Greco-Roman has had a great product, I think. I loved watching the Greco-Roman out in the world as much as the freestyle.
A lot of people made that comment at the Vegas Worlds last September that they enjoyed the Greco. So clearly it didn't live up to that competition.
No, it didn't. And, of course, the weights they focused on were the higher weights, but I think that must have been... judging by the enthusiasm of John Smith, none of it was too great.
Yeah. Well, the United States came out with 3 medals. We had a bronze in men's freestyle, we had a gold in men's freestyle, and we had a gold in women's freestyle. We have the gold medalists on this program today. We're going to have Kyle Snyder, who is the 211-pound Olympic champion in men's freestyle, and then Helen Marulis will be on the program as well. She was the 116-pound Olympic champion. So a special show today. You have 2 Olympic gold medalists fresh off their Olympic gold medal wins, and both made history, and both are from Maryland.
That's interesting.
That is interesting. So the history that Kyle Snyder made, he's the youngest Olympic wrestling champion in U.S. history. Helen Marulis is the first female from the United States to win an Olympic gold medal in wrestling. So we have 2 history-making athletes. She looked, she hit some shots. She was so crisp. She hit some inside trips that were just amazing. So to watch her, she was as on as I've seen a wrestler. She looked fantastic throughout, so we get a chance to talk to both of them about that. So you're going to want to make sure to stick around. This is a special show for that. But let's move on with what other people were talking about with the Olympic competition. Dan Gable says, hey, we don't need 1 day of competition per weight class. We need 2 days. And Dan brings that to the point that, hey, when he was competing in 1972, he was on 5 days in a row. He had 6 matches over the course of 5 days. And so that really is what's part of Dan Gable's legacy, is you think back to that. And a lot of people say that they point to the 1972 Olympics as what got them inspired and took them to the next level and why they got interested in wrestling. It's because you got a chance to see Dan Gable 5 consecutive days. Right now, you're lucky to see 1 match on 1 day in wrestling competition. What year did they go to that all in 1 day done? That was, I think, after the 2013. Or they may I know they wanted to get everything done in 1 day. I know that at least by 2013. I think in 2012 they had the same type of competition where they had everything completed. Where you weigh in that morning and that's the only day you got to make weight. And it's probably before that, but I think it's misguided. I think that's why I like the idea of 5 matches or 6 matches over the course of 5 days. I like that idea. I wish it would have stayed that way because it's a gold medal in the Olympics. You think it would be worth that. But I think right now that tilts the rules to the people that do the severe weight cutting, and then have the recovery time to get back up to what their natural weight is. And I'll bet you sometimes that's 20 pounds. Oh, easily. They've made more an art of the weight cutting than they have of the wrestling. Yeah, because if you get to weigh in 24 hours before, as they do right now, you can binge cut, and if you had to make weight 5 days in a row, you have to keep your weight down, and that's going to be a lot tougher to do. I think that's who pushed it. Probably, but I think UWW, which is our governing body for wrestling, they want to get things done. They want things easy. They want to streamline it. Let's get the matches through as quickly as possible, as fast as possible, so we can move on. It's almost. Then let's do a 1 hour wrestle, just like they do in college.
wrestle an hour. Within an hour starts the weight after you've weighed in, right?
Yeah, but think about if you want to compare to college when you go to the NCAA wrestling tournament. What do you have on the first day? You have 330 competitors wrestling. So that's why you're able to fill an arena. Right now, the way the system works is you have 2 weight classes on one day. That means in the Olympic competition, you have 40 competitors. That's not going to be a huge draw if you don't know someone in the wrestling competition. That's just going to limit your capacity on what you're able to get for participants and crowd involvement. And so if you're able to expand that, maybe go 4 weight classes over the course of 2 days, you just doubled your numbers and who's going to attend the wrestling venue. And you're going to get more exposure on TV. It builds that excitement. Right now there's no build because you have it all within the course of less than 12 hours. And that doesn't build a lot.
No.
You look at the NCAA basketball tournament. Why is that fun? It's March Madness. It's over the course of a long period of time. And I think that's what builds the enthusiasm, builds the excitement. So I don't think we'll ever go back to 5 days. In fact, I know we won't. But I think a compromise is if we could get 2 days of competition for one weight class. And I think it would really build the excitement. And it would allow you to see this level of talent for more than one day. I don't know who's in charge that can make that happen. But I think that's the direction we need to go.
Would you have a weigh-in on the second day?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think you should.
Yeah, you could see that in a lot of that guy that Snyder wrestled in the semis, I bet you that guy, Snyder, he won the heavyweight championship at the NCAA. I don't know how much he weighed then, maybe 220?
Probably a little more than that, I would think. But, yeah, in that.
Well, I'm thinking that guy probably weighed 255 pounds that he had to wrestle in the semis. He had to give away 30 to 40 pounds because that guy has the ability to lose that much weight and then gain it back that quick. So.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Oof. But where did you watch the Kyle Snyder match? Did you watch that on NBCSN?
Yep.
Okay. And I think the problem, though, is if you don't have cable or don't have those channels, you're out of luck on what you can watch. But, hey, I'm still going to give NBC credit. The coverage was unprecedented.
Online, yeah. And they did a good job of reminding people of that and reminding me that I don't have the right technological hookup.
Is that going to change anything for you? Are
What?
you going to actually get things on Streamline for 2020 so that you can watch everything?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll check in with you in 4 years and see how all that's going for you.
All right.
So we get to be excited about something in the future. Make sure you stick around. We have a great show today. 2 Olympic gold medalists are going to be on the show with us. Kyle Snyder, who won an Olympic gold medal at 213 pounds, youngest American to ever win an Olympic gold medal in wrestling. He's going to be on with us. And Helen Marulis, who's the first female Olympic wrestling champion in our country's history. She's going to be on the show. So 2 Olympic gold medalists on the show with us. We're breaking down the 2016 Olympic Games. And as we mentioned, 2 gold medals, 1 bronze. And believe me, it's been brought up by a lot of people how interesting it is that our 2 medalists in men's freestyle both have college eligibility. You have Jaden Cox, who won at 189 pounds, going to be a senior at Missouri this year, and Kyle Snyder will be a junior at Ohio State. I don't know what that says to you, Doug, but I know that a lot of people want to move toward completely freestyle. I think this really puts the framework in that folk style system works, and you can adapt and you can make things function even in the collegiate system, that we don't need to get away from that.
Well, I think they should meld it a little bit more.
What does that mean then? Push out? Worth 1? Is that what you mean? Push out? Yeah.
Or the walkout.
Well, how do you meld it? Is it going to a gut wrench? I mean, what's
my pet peeve is the writing time.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. That would satisfy me for now, but the push out, if you're fleeing the mat, they should call that every time.
Yeah.
That is a rule, that if you're fleeing the mat to avoid contact, but the referees don't seem to enforce it. I don't think.
In freestyle or in folk style?
freestyle does, not folk style.
Freestyle does, and there's a few little tweaks on the rules, but right now it is interesting with the folk style system where there's going to be a call on the edge of the mat. It's either going to be stalling on the guy pushing you out, stalling on the guy backing up, or you can have that action call. So there's going to be some sort of a call by the official on the out-of-bounds rule, which I think is good. But again, Doug, it's up to interpretation of the official, and I think we need to get away from the official having as much jurisdiction on what happens in the match. Make it cut and dry. Shot clock might be a solution, too, if you're talking about melding it a little bit. Maybe you do get a shot clock, although I think 30 seconds in freestyle. So for those who don't know, if the referee deems that you are not engaging in activity or being passive, they will put that wrestler on the shot clock. And if you don't score in 30 seconds, your opponent gets a point. I'd like to see that cut down to maybe 10 or 15 seconds, make it that dramatic, because through the course of a 3-minute period or 2-minute period, that's 30 seconds is a big chunk of time. So really get these guys on it, because in a college match at 7 minutes, we want to see something in that 7 minutes. That's not that long to work as far as a fan is concerned to watch this. Now, the work is incredible. It's off the charts hard, but as fans, we want to see a product that is worth coming back for all the time, and that feeds into, hey, if wrestling is on NBC, Doug, is it the product that we want right now? Is that a product that's going to buy in fans if they see it, or are they going to say, that wrestling's a little bit funny, I don't get why there's a little line under there and someone won 2-2? And I'm not even sure some diehards who haven't been following the rules would understand that either. So the last person who scores wins, but it happens. Not
necessarily.
I know.
If we had a 2-point takedown.
I know, but that's the whole point. And Jaden Cox got caught up in that because he was tied, and so a shot clock 1 point is worth more than a push out 1 point. Try to explain that to someone.
That is difficult.
Yeah. And so could you imagine winning a Super Bowl by saying, hey, we scored last, but it was a touchdown and you had more field goals, so we're going to win. I mean, it's ridiculous on every level, and that needs to go. It just needs to be a straight overtime. You need to have a clear winner. The person with the most points needs to be the outright winner of the match, plain and simple. I don't know how it could get any more basic than that. Real quick, as we wind down this segment, Jordan Burroughs and Adeline Gray did not medal at this Olympics.
Shocking.
I think a lot of people are shocked by that. I'm still a little bit surprised on how that went down, because they're icons that I think are faces of the sport. And I don't know what it's going to do for them long term, but I hope they stick with it. I hope that Jordan Burroughs continues to compete, because Kyle Dake's going down, and I want to see Kyle Dake against Jordan Burroughs in that finals of the World Team Trials in 2017. That's exciting for the sport of wrestling, so hopefully we get that.
Wonder if Howe is going to go to Greco-Roman.
I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. I know we haven't even talked about...
That's such a tough weight.
Yeah, Lou Rosselli's going to Oklahoma as the head coach. We haven't even had a chance to talk about that, so we have to end the segment with that. But we'll talk with Kyle Snyder next on the mat, 1650 The Fan.
1650 The Fan, KCNZ.
We are back on the mat, 1650 The Fan. I am Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, along with Doug Van Gelder. We have history on the line with us. Kyle Snyder, the youngest American to win an Olympic gold medal in wrestling at the age of 20. He won an Olympic gold medal at 213 pounds in freestyle competition just a few days ago. I think you just got back into the States. Is that correct, Kyle?
Yep, that's correct. I got back in Friday of last week.
Okay.
So not even a week back in the States.
What, just wanted to spend a little time down there?
Yeah, I want to spend a couple of days with my family there and just relax for a little bit and get to see all the things that I wasn't able to see because of the competition.
What's it like walking around after the competition, knowing you're an Olympic champion in Rio de Janeiro?
It was awesome. The Brazilians actually were really cool about it. They treated me really well, and that was fun because I didn't expect that, and then you're just happy because you're able to win and wrestle well.
Well, what's that feeling like? Because I don't know how long that can last, but just that buzz of you've won the competition, you're in Rio, you get to spend some time with your family. Are you just completely on cloud nine the entire time?
Well, I try to be on cloud nine every day.
Yeah, good.
But
That's the way.
I like that.
Yeah, you're happy for a while. Still happy now. Got a lot of things to be happy about, but I mean, it's definitely a little different after you win something big. You feel good about yourself for a little bit.
As we mentioned, you are the youngest American to win an Olympic gold medal in wrestling. And if memory serves me, you watched the 2008 Olympics when Henry Cejudo set that mark. You would have been 12 years old. What was that like watching him in that competition, knowing that he was that young at the time? And how did that motivate you going forward?
Oh, it was awesome watching Henry compete. At that point, I still thought I was going to be a football player, but I liked wrestling a lot, so that's why I was watching it. But it was cool, and looking back on it now, it definitely motivates me because I was able to watch that match and watch Henry make history when I started to focus just on wrestling and becoming the best wrestler I could be.
When did that transition happen where you focused completely on wrestling and you abandoned that dream of going into football?
I think that happened when I was probably in ninth grade is when I really started to love wrestling and thought this was probably going to be something that I would try to do for a while. And then after that, I started focusing more time on it and began to set higher goals and began to get closer of reaching those goals. And all of a sudden, I was there, and that was it.
On the line with Kyle Snyder, he won an Olympic gold medal at the age of 20 in Rio. He won the 213-pound weight class in the men's freestyle division. And watching the competition was fun for a lot of us, especially that semifinal match where you're down 4-0. And I want to ask you about that because that was special for a lot of people. Dan Gable said, hey, that's the American way. You came back and you put on a great show. When you were in that, how do you maintain that ability to stay calm and know that you're going to win that match?
Well, you never know you're going to win the match. You don't know you're going to win the match until the final whistle is blown. But that's what makes wrestling exciting, and that's what makes the sport cool. That's what makes all sports cool, that kind of sense of you don't know what's going to happen, and anything could happen while you're out there. But, I always feel good when I'm wrestling. I always feel confident in my ability, and I train really hard, and mentally, the thing I focus on the most is just giving all of myself, giving 100% of myself while I'm competing, which is a hard thing to do because sometimes you get nervous, sometimes you want to tighten up a little bit, but I think just focusing on my effort has really allowed me to stay calm during matches and wrestle my best.
Tervel Delagnev, your training partner who made the Olympic team at the super heavyweight division, said that you give up more position and more takedowns in practice than any world champion he's ever seen. And he meant that as a compliment, that you were willing to put it all on the line and try things. How did you develop that mentality that, hey, it's practice and you want to try things and you want to put yourself on the line, and that in turn keeps you relaxed just like you talked about?
Yeah. I developed that by listening to Tervel. He's got an amazing wrestling mind, super high wrestling IQ, and he's really passionate about getting people to wrestle freely, wrestle openly, and get 100% out of themselves. And basically the way that you do that is by valuing the correct things. Instead of valuing winning and losing and or valuing gold medals or accolades, just try to value the sport for what it is. Value wrestling because you love it and because you want to be a really good wrestler and because you want to score a lot of points. So when you focus on those things, it makes it a lot easier to compete hard.
Why do you think some wrestlers get hamstrung by that they go into practice and have that protectionist mentality that I'm going to stay in my area and I'm not going to try to delve into a low single when my move is the double leg takedown and try to get away from that? But from what you've seen in competition, why do you think wrestlers really can have a hard time with that, or anyone has a hard time with that?
Well, I think people have hard times. I mean, I have a hard time with it still. Cabell has a hard time with it still because everybody's natural thing that we want most is to win. No matter what, you never have to teach a kid to want to win, right? From the second they're born till the day that they pass away, you're going to want to win. So the things that you kind of do have to teach and make sure that kids are still having fun while they're doing that. And the way that you can have fun is by loving what you're doing and wrestling exciting matches. And I think the more you can shift your mentality from I want to win to I want to get the maximum, I want to get all of myself out on the mat. I want to wrestle literally as hard as I possibly can every second I'm on the mat. Then it just allows people to have a lot more fun. And that's why I think it's really important to preach that at the junior league level, because so many times it's kind of like you got to win. Make sure you win, okay? Make sure you win first. Make sure you win, okay? Make sure you win. And then it's like as they walk on the mat, you say, make sure you have fun at the end. Instead of preaching, all right, make sure you have fun. Make sure you wrestle your hardest. Make sure you try a lot of moves. Make sure you try to score points. And then at the end, be like, all right, and try to win.
Bill Zadek's our new national team coach for freestyle. Is he someone that's going to implement that philosophy for our U.S. team?
Yeah, I know Travell's talked to him a lot about it. So I know Coach Zadek thinks a similar way, and he's got some other great points that he makes with Travell. So I think he will.
And what's you have gotten to know him over the years? What's your relationship been like in the months leading up to the Olympics? I know you went out to the Olympic Training Center for a while after high school. What did Bill Zadek do for your career?
He's done a ton. He's always been there for me to talk to about wrestling or positions or issues that I'm having in the sport and outside the sport. We've had a long relationship since I was about a junior in high school. We've been working together, and he's always presented me with great opportunities to train and compete.
On the line with Kyle Snyder. He is the youngest Olympic wrestling champion in U.S. history. At the age of 20, he won an Olympic gold medal at 213 pounds in men's freestyle. He's on the line with us. And, Doug, I think you have a question for Kyle.
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to point out the Triple Crown, the World Championship, the NCAA, and now an Olympic Championship, all within the span of a year. Who else has done that, Kyle?
I think John Smith. John Smith in 88 did it too.
It's a pretty elite group, I bet.
Pretty elite group. Have you compartmentalized that you were able to accomplish that all in a year, Kyle?
I have. A lot of people have been telling me that that's what I've done. So I didn't really think about it while I was doing it. I didn't know that all this would happen within a year. But I've always believed in myself, and I always feel good about the way I'm going to compete most of the time, So I feel like as long as I wrestle my best or get close to that, and I'm going to have some success, a lot of success while I'm competing.
And this is a point that Randy Lewis brought out. He was a '84 Olympic champion, and he likes to needle people quite a bit. He wanted to make sure that I brought out to you that by the time you went into the wrestling season, you had been pinned more than you had gotten pins until you got a pin in the NCAA tournament. Not really a question, but he wanted me to needle you about that a little bit.
Yeah, I know. That's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, to think about that.
I mean, hopefully I can get some more pins next year to start.
Yeah, and it leads into what I wanted to ask, and I think a lot of people want to know, what does the college wrestling season look like? Are you going to have a modified season? Are you going to start right away? Are you going to have limited matches? What's it going to look like for Kyle Snyder in 2017?
It'll be limited matches. I'm going to wrestle, hopefully get to wrestle in the bigger dual meets against Iowa and Penn State, and dual meets where it might come down to heavyweight or something like that. I'd like to wrestle, and then obviously the Big Tens and the NCAAs, but I'm still going to go overseas a couple times and wrestle internationally. So that'll take place during the college season, so I'll miss a couple matches and a couple dual meets. But I'm trying to, right now we're in the process of trying to figure out my schedule so that I can be back for the bigger dual meets and matches.
Are you in classes right now? Are you enrolled at Ohio State?
I am enrolled, yes.
Okay.
Should see if you can get college credit for those trips overseas.
Yeah.
Studying the sport.
Yeah,
there
studying abroad, yeah.
Studying abroad, I know, right?
Yeah, that'd be really good. And you had answered this the last time you were on the show, but I know a lot of people have this question, and they've asked me, and so we get a chance to answer that question. So the money you get from winning an Olympic gold medal, do you get to keep that, or do you have to give that back?
I can keep it.
You can?
I can keep all of it.
Okay.
Yep, so I can...
it's in a trust?
I can spend it on whatever I want to spend it on. And I think I'll be receiving it at the end of September. So
okay.
It'll be pretty cool.
And refresh us on why that is. Why is it you can receive money through an Olympic competition and it doesn't make you ineligible for the college season?
So the USOC and the NCAA agreed to that any money that comes through an organization called Operation Gold, I can receive. And basically Operation Gold is the money that is given to an athlete when he or she competes at the highest event of that year. So during an Olympic year, it's the Olympics, and during a World Championship year, it's the Worlds. And I would receive the money for competing in those two events.
Okay. And as far as just maintaining eligibility, are you planning on competing at Ohio State after this season? Do you want to continue to go through and get your full eligibility at Ohio State?
After this season?
Yeah, are you going to have a senior season and continue to compete, or do you want to at some point just say, I'm going to international and that's it?
Well, as long as I can compete, as long as I can still compete overseas during the year, then I'm going to compete for Ohio State, you know.
Okay.
As long as I can still allow and still improve as a freestyle wrestler and get freestyle matches during the collegiate season, then I'll be wrestling for Ohio State.
On the line with Kyle Snyder, Olympic gold medalist at 213 pounds, and we'll make mention that he became the 11th human being in history to win an NCAA title, an Olympic title, and a world championship. And part of the reason that you made that history, Lou Roselli was your club coach, and he has now taken the job at Oklahoma as the head wrestling coach. What's it going to be like to not have him around and have that void?
It's going to be different for sure. It's going to be different. I've been working with Lou ever since I went to Ohio State, and he's had a tremendous impact on my life. Great coach, a great mentor, great friend. So I'm excited to see who gets the job at Ohio State. I know there's a couple people applying now, and they're all really good candidates, so that's exciting. And, sometimes, everybody's going to miss Lou. We're all going to miss his presence, but he deserves the opportunity to be a head coach because he's done so much within the sport, and to be able to run a program the way he wants to run it, which is exciting. And change sometimes is a positive thing. So maybe getting a new mind in there, a new head will help the team improve in a way that we might not have been able to.
What have you heard with Travell? How's his back doing?
It's okay. He didn't hurt it. He didn't hurt it any worse at the Olympics. It's just been hurt. So we just need to take some time off and, what he's going to be able to do now because he's just coaching. And then he'll start rolling around and practicing again, I'm sure, eventually.
On the line with Kyle Snyder, Olympic gold medalist at 213 pounds. And as you gear up for the season, what's this gap going to look like between now and the start of the college wrestling season? Do you take some time off, or do you go right back into training?
I take some time off. I feel really good. My whole body feels good, except for my big toes. I got I have turf toe on two of my big toes, both my big toes. So I'm going to let those heal 100%, and then once they're healed, I'll get back on the mat and start drilling and sparring again. But I'm already lifting. I haven't done really any conditioning. I'll probably take a little time off from that, let my body heal. But I'm already lifting because I like lifting a lot. So I'll stay in pretty decent shape up until then.
Well, we appreciate you joining us. Congratulations on NCAA gold, World Championship gold, now Olympic gold, all within the course of a year. You've been on a lot in our program here in the last year, and we appreciate it because you've accomplished a lot, and it's worthy to talk about. But thanks for taking more time to talk with us, and congratulations on your Olympic gold medal.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day. All
right, appreciate it. That was Kyle Snyder. Up next, we have another Maryland native, Helen Marulis. Next, on the mat, 1650 The Fan.
1650 The Fan, KCNZ.
We are back on the mat, 1650 The Fan. I am Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, along with Doug Van Gelder. More history, Doug, and this is of the female wrestling variety. The first female wrestler from the United States to win an Olympic gold medal.
Hallelujah.
Won it at 121 pounds. Helen Marulis on the program with us. How are you, Helen?
Hi. Well, I actually won it at 116 pounds.
116, 121 last year, and then you cut down. So you're world champ at 121 and then 116 this year. And let's talk about that right away. The weight cut was something that was a talking point going into this. What was that like, making the weight cut and getting down that 5 pounds?
That was extremely difficult for me, and I think I know all wrestlers they know how to cut weight and everything, and it wasn't cutting weight is just at some point it just sucks no matter what, whether you're cutting 10 or 20 pounds. But I think it was really difficult because I wanted to do it the best way possible. And so I had my strength coach, and I was lifting through the whole thing, trying to gain as much strength as possible. And I had a running program, so I was trying to be as conditioned as possible. And then I had this really strict diet that was designed to provide me with enough, protein, nutrients, macros, everything, so that I could keep muscle while at the same time burning fat. And so it was all my coaches working together. And, I've cut weight before. I've cut tons and tons of weight. That wasn't new to me. And in fact, it's really easier to do it the wrong way. It hurts, but it's easier to do it that way. And so, but to do it the right way, day in and day out, that was a discipline that was just so difficult for me.
Are there challenges?
But it paid off.
Are there challenges that women have cutting weight that men don't? Have you interacted with males and you just have different weight cutting strategies that you have to implement?
Yes and no. It's funny. I'll talk to some of the guys in Rio, and they're like, I'm kind of the same amount of weight as you. I'm 15 pounds over, but they can grab a yogurt, and that's makes has no change on them. I'm like, for me, yogurt was going to be the equivalent of eating chocolate cake. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't have the sugar. I'm not allowed to have this source of protein, and I can't have these. So I was like, oh, okay, we might be cutting the same amount, but for me to cut this weight, I'm like, I'm literally eating 3 different things 4 times a day, and there's no variety that, that there's no change up in that, where what I saw was that I think maybe they had a little bit more leeway, but, and also I just think with a female body and, just a female body is a little bit different, so there were some, different factors from, when I made weight in Mongolia and I made the weight and I had a 2-week break, and when I came back to training, I had a terrible backlash. It was like my body just held on to everything, and it literally took 2 months, and Maxime Molinov, he's the assistant coach in Colorado, he actually said, because he coached women in Russia, and he was like, well, it's different for women. He coached men and women, so he said, he's like, I've noticed it's different for women. He's like, for women, it could take up to 2 months for your body to recover from an extremely hard cut when you're that low in body fat. And he's like, just the body's different. He's like, everything. And so he's like, don't be surprised if it takes 2 months to recover from this. And I'm thinking, no, there's no way. And it was hard. And I'm like, eating super strict. And then all of a sudden it was like terrible. I mean, it was like, okay, what else can I cut out? All right, I'm on the phone with my nutritionist. Now you don't get a fat source. Now you just have to use olive oil as your fat source. Okay, we're going to make this even more strict. Cut this out. Okay, now you can only stick with white fish and only stick with asparagus because, we don't know what's going on with your body right now, and it's not letting go of any of the weight. And so that was this really scary period because I'd never been through that before, and I think it's a little bit different from, like, the guys. I don't think they have as horrible of, like, a bounce back as maybe sometimes females do.
When did you have that vision that you knew you were going to have to cut down to 116 for the Olympics? Because you won the Worlds in 2015 at 121. Did you know even going into the World Championships that the next year I'm going to have to make a weight cut?
Yeah, I think if you just see a lot of my interviews throughout the whole year, it was like I always said that I wanted to go 53, but there were some periods where it was like, I don't really know if I can make this weight. I might go 58. And so the last 2 years was, pretty much the last 2 years was when the weights changed. And so at the time I was small enough that I was like, oh yeah, I'm not that big of a 55. I can go 53. But when I met my strength coach, Charles Poliquin, all of a sudden, I put on ridiculous amounts of muscle, and then that was awesome. But it was like, I don't know if I can make 53 anymore. And then, then I met my nutritionist, and it was like, okay, I think I can make 55, and I made that for the Worlds. And so, Valentin all year was like, I don't think you can make 53. He's like, I think you're going to have to wrestle 58. He's like, you're a big 55 now. And, but when I made weight at Worlds, he's like, you know what? He's like, you got a little bit more fat to go. Like, I think you can make 53. And so, but I really didn't even know if I could make that weight until, like, 3 days before trials. I mean, I pretty much what I decided was, I'm going to do this diet perfectly. I'm going to do this to the best of my ability. And if muscle and fat won't come off my body and I'm just a lean 59 kilos, then I'm going to wrestle 58. And I'm like, and it literally was like the week of was when I dropped into the 57s and saw that for the first time. And so from around 57, I was like, all right, I can make 53. But I mean, even my dad came, and when he saw me the day before trials, he's like, are you sure you don't want to wrestle 58? And I was like, Dad, it's too late now.
Yeah.
So.
How much did you weigh when you took the mat?
You know what? I don't gain a lot of weight back the day after competition. It's 2 days after. So
okay.
I weighed in at 53, and I think the next morning after trials, I was 57.1. I actually recorded it. The day after Mongolia, I was 58.5, and the day after the Olympics, I didn't check, but honestly, that was the hardest cut leading up to it, but it was the best, like, actual weight cut, and so I feel like my body kind of adjusted at that point, and
okay.
So I might have been like 60 or 59 kilos, but I actually felt like too heavy the morning of trials, and so I had a really light breakfast, and I just had to warm up hard because my body's used to practicing and drilling at, 57 kilos or something. Then I don't want to step on the mat at 60 thinking that that's going to be an advantage, because it's not, because my body's not used to wrestling with all that weight. And so I don't care to gain like a certain amount back. I just want to feel good.
On the line with Helen Marulis, Olympic champion at 116 pounds, the first female from the United States to win an Olympic gold medal in wrestling. And I know that you said, hey, an Olympic gold medal is a gold medal, and it wasn't part of making history for you, but that is special. For as long as our sport is in existence, you will always be the first. That has to be pretty special.
Yeah. Like I said, I did some. I think a lot of the media wanted to focus on who was going to be the first Olympic gold medalist, and they would always ask us. And it was just like, you know what, I wish we'd already, won this gold medal, because I think all the women that came before me are just incredible athletes, and I think they were all capable of it. And it's like, it comes down to one day of competition, and all the girls on the team that we had were phenomenal. We had a great training camp. So in my mind, I really thought like, okay, Haley's going to win it, and then me, then Elena, then Adeline. And so I was like, it's not about being the first or the second or the third. I'm like, I just had to zero in on my goal, which was the same when I was 7 years old, and that was just to be an Olympic champion.
Watching you compete, you looked like you were on. You were hitting great shots. They looked crisp, some inside trips. When you go into a competition like that, do you have the feel that, hey, I'm really clicking right now, I've got it going? Did you have that feel entering the first match?
Actually, my first match was like, I anticipated this. I'm like, okay, I know it's going to be the Olympics, and I couldn't sleep, for 2 nights. The 2 nights before, the night before weigh-ins, the night before competition. I mean, I didn't sleep. I was up at like 5:30. So I got to the point where I was like, I honestly, I just want to do this already. Like, I just want to step on the mat. I'm tired of like daydreaming about it and anticipating what it's going to be like. I'm like, I just want to get on the mat. And so I think I had that like nervous energy for the first match, but everything just picked up day by day by day. And I think one of the things I really worked on for myself over the past 4 years was, what do I have to do to get into a zone every time I step on the on the mat for competition. And really, part of that just comes with, I need that zone, I need to make that zone the same, and so therefore I need to view every competition as of equal importance. So for me, when I competed in Baku, or when I competed for the Pan American Wrestle-Off, I mean, all of those were just as important to me as the Olympics. And I know that sounds silly to say, but I think I just conditioned my mind to view every tournament as like important and put the pressure on, but at the same time finding joy in that moment. And so when I stepped on the mat for the Olympics, I knew it was a big deal, but I also was just so excited to enjoy the moment.
So you said after you won the 2015 World Championships that you really couldn't let it soak in because you hadn't won the Olympic Games. Now you've won the Olympic Games. Is that 2015 World soaked in, that you've won back-to-back World and Olympic Championships?
That hasn't soaked in, but it's, I've always said, I'm like, wrestling is, it's intertwined with my faith, and it's really, for me, it's like a lot about self-discovery. And so I was just sitting here and I was like, wow, I remember, you just kind of have doubts creep up, and I was just kind of thinking, well, 2015 Worlds, yeah, I won it, but it was in Las Vegas, it was in my home country. Like, was that an advantage for me? Was that a disadvantage for other people? Or, was that an Olympic weight? And I know, maybe some people think that that's not as tough, or, it's different from the Olympics. And so to actually have won the Olympics now and against the opponents that I did, it's amazing, because I look back and I'm like, I think that's why this doesn't affect me now, because the things that I did to be an Olympic champion are the same things that I was doing for every other tournament and competition. And because those habits, you can't win the Olympics by preparing for 2 weeks or just when you make the team. I mean, it has to be something you've been doing years before. And so it was really humbling and kind of also just like a nice confidence boost, because I'm like, wow, I trusted in faith that the things I was doing would pay off, and they did.
In the finals, you beat a 16-time world and Olympic champion. She took it hard after she lost. When you're around that and you see her on the medal stand, how do you compartmentalize what she's going through as you are elated and won an Olympic gold medal?
You know what, it's hard for me to watch. It honestly, it's like, I feel so much joy for myself, and I'm so happy, and I love that I got to represent my country, and that moment was incredible, just indescribable. But at the same time, like seeing Yoshida, and just every time I studied her, always seeing her win, always seeing someone that I'm like, wow, this person, they don't lose. And then to see that, it's and the emotion that she had for it, I'm like, I know what that feels like. It was almost like a reminder of what losing at the Olympic trials in 2012 felt like. It was like no one, people can sympathize, but they're not going to understand because they're not in that position. And, when I just saw her truly devastated to the point where she, can't even hide it, and she's just bawling, and after we shook hands, and she just, put her head on my shoulder, and it was like, it's like you see the real person. Like, she can't hide any of her feelings. It's just there. It's just all on the mat. And, I mean, I'm a woman. I'm emotional, and I'm very empathetic. And, so I felt for her. And I think that was the reason it was very emotional, because I'm like, this truly is sport. This is what it feels like to lose, and this is what it feels like to win. And I think everyone's, been in both those positions before, and that's why it's very emotional, because that's a lot of emotion for either person.
Real quick, as we close out the segment, you had a chance to talk to the Baltimore Ravens. How cool is that?
That was incredible. I didn't know if that was something planned or if that's something that they always do when they have guest visits. Really, they just brought me over to Coach Harbaugh to meet him and take some photos, and he just turned to me, and I think, just making small talk, he said, "Did you know you were going to win?" And I'm like, yeah, this is this, great football, this men's professional football coach, and I should be like, yeah, I definitely knew. I worked so hard, but I was like, no, being honest, I'm like, I had no idea I was going to win. And I just kind of shared with him exactly what thoughts went through my mind. And he's like, oh, that's horrible. Do you mind sharing that with the guys? And so I was really nervous. So I'm like, I don't know what I just said. I'm like, I just spoke to the heart. I don't know what I just said. And he's like, just say exactly what you said. So, but it was amazing. It's crazy because I spent a lot of my life in, boys programs trying to earn respect from the guys, from the coaches, and then to walk into a men's professional football team and just right away get respect from these guys and just be honored to speak there. It was incredible. And it was a powerful moment for me because I'm like, I do remember what it was like stepping into a boys' room and having to earn my respect. And then here I am, and I just share a few words, and you could tell it really resonated with the guys. And they shook my hands after, they congratulated me, and it was like just athlete to athlete. I mean, there was no gender involved. It was really just respect between two different athletes, and it didn't matter if the sports were different. And so that was really cool to see. I mean, those guys were incredible. Coach Harbaugh was amazing to talk to and to meet. So I was just, that was a privilege for me.
We are out of time. Thank you. Congratulations on your Olympic gold medal and joining us today. For Doug Van Gelder, Helen Marulis, and Kyle Snyder, I'm Kyle Klingman. You've been listening to On the Mat on 1650 The Fan.
You've been listening to On the Mat, a presentation of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, and brought to you by Rolling Ford in Shell Rock on 1650 The Fan, KCNZ.
This show is part of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MatTalkOnline.com.